Alright, hello, welcome everyone. Welcome to today's art stream. My name is Brandon Blitz, I'm a Friday streamer. I stream lots of video games, chat to this me, as well as I stream art, I do programming, and hopefully sooner or later I get to stream 3D modeling to everyone here. That being said, welcome everyone. I hope y'all having a good day with Blitzies. Alright. Right now we were Alright, yeah. Alright. I forgot. It doesn't really work. Anywho. Alright. Fuck. Anything going on with the tracking? Hello? Alright, tracking crashed. Hold on. Alright. Hopefully that's good. Alright. There we go. I believe we were here. The zoom button. Alright. Alright, let's get started.
The 𝙂𝙚 incident. Addiction is a chronic condition characterized by a compulsive urge to engage in a specific behavior like drinking, substance abuse, or in this case, Clash Royale. A young man had grown so attached to the mobile game that it became the center of his life. He was a level 9 and was already at 3,600 trophies, which, honestly, is pretty impressive considering that this took place back in 2016. In those times, having just 3,000 trophies would literally place you in the highest arena. To put it into perspective for today's time, it'd be like getting to 15,000 trophies when you're just a level 12. In other words, he was a sweat. Each victory gave him a rush of validation, and each loss felt like a personal failure. His days revolved around the climb, pushing trophies, upgrading cards, and chasing more wins. Over time, his joy turned into obsession. The game that once entertained him slowly began to consume him. It was no longer just Clash Royale, the app was now his life. He took everything personal. Unfortunately for him, on one fateful night, the man would become overwhelmed by the two cards he absolutely hated the most in the game, Elite Barbs and Hog Riders. Match after match, player after player, his opponents kept using these cards with their levels completely maxed out. He began losing every round, with each loss angering him more than the last. Before the young man even realized it, he had dropped down hundreds of trophies in a single day, and at that point, something inside him broke. Rage and despair collided. The man threw his phone, got up from his seat, and began, unfortunately, I can't really show you the rest of this incident, because it turns out that it actually crosses some of YouTube's guidelines. So, maybe I'll make a Patreon or something? I don't know, but anyways, let's move on to the next incident. The Gamer Rage incident. In June 2024, a gaming dispute took an unthinkable turn from the virtual world into real life. After receiving constant trash talk and beratement from another player on a dying video game, a 20-year-old man from New Jersey finally decided that enough was enough. His favorite video game was shutting down at severs, his life was stressing him out, and this player was still trash talking him. The man sat down and deeply pondered how he'd go about addressing his situation, and it was at that moment that he came up with an ingenious idea. He'd go and find out where the player lived, tell his mother that he was going to visit a distant friend, and then fly 1,000 miles to the player's town. Upon arrival, he purchased a hammer at a local hardware store, and then found the man's house. At 2 a.m., the 20-year-old would enter through the man's unlocked door. Then he ambushed him and struck him repeatedly as he walked out of his bedroom. The man would break into a panic and completely freak out whilst trying to register the totally unbelievable situation before his eyes. Some dude he was trash-talking on an MMO was actually inside his house, at 2 o'clock, attacking him. During their struggles, the man began to scream out for help, and to his complete luck, his stepfather happened to be awake and nearby. The two of them together were able to stop and subdue the 20-year-old until deputies arrived. Although he was injured pretty badly, the man survived and received staples that had helped close several head wounds. As for the other man, Kang was arrested on multiple felony charges, and when questioned about why he did what he did, he chillingly replied by saying that the other gamer was a bad person online. The VR incident.
Wow.
In December 2017, a 44-year-old man in Moscow was at home with his headset strapped on, fully immersed in a VR session. But inside his apartment, the line between the simulated world and the real one blurred. As he moved around the room, he lost his footing and stumbled hard, slamming into a glass table. The impact was devastating. Glass was everywhere, on and inside of him. As the man stood back up, he didn't even have a moment to panic or call 911. He instantly fell back down and became unresponsive. Unfortunately, investigators later reported that he passed away almost instantly. There was no chance to save him. This stood as one of the first recognized incidents where a VR caused the passing of an individual. It serves as a stark reminder that while virtual reality transports us to other worlds, our bodies never leave this one. One misstep in your living room is more dangerous than any simulated battlefield rendered on a screen. So remember to always be aware of your surroundings when you put your VR on. The window incident. As it grew dark outside, it rained and thundered on. This night was supposed to be a quiet, relaxing session of gaming for this 33-year-old man in the UK. He sat in his living room playing his PS5, unaware of the complete chaos that he had awaited him. He opened up his window for some fresh air and resumed his gaming. However, the weather of the night would have no plans of calming down anytime soon. Slowly, it began storming harder and harder outside of his house. Then, in the midst of his game, a sudden bolt of lightning struck his home, bounced off of a puddle of water outside, and then bolted right through his open window and slammed straight into his body. The impact from the lightning bolt was so immense that it launched him from his chair and shocked the living hell out of him, scarring his body with branch-like burns. But, despite how lethal lightning strikes are, the man somehow rose back up from the ground. His head was throbbing and his body was on fire, but he was completely confused, not knowing what hit him. He went to his partner and asked for a wet towel because he had a headache, but upon seeing his horrific condition, they immediately freaked out and rushed him to a hospital to be treated. Doctors and staff took him in and did the best they could do for his burns and internal shock injuries. And against all odds, he somehow survived. Even though he didn't pass away, I couldn't imagine how absolutely horrifying it must be for you to be playing video games in the safety of your living room one second and then getting struck by literal lightning the next second. Ironically enough, the man was playing Stray, and if you're not familiar with that, it's a game where you're a cat trying to find its way back to its family through, you guessed it, a thunderstorm. The Roblox incident. In the fall of 2024, a boy whose only escape was Roblox found their world warped into something unrecognizable. What had once been a game of building, laughing, and running soon became the doorway to a disturbing nightmare. As the youngster continued his gaming, he'd stumble across another friendly gamer in the chat. But on the other side of the screen was Tara Alexis Sykes, a 36-year-old woman from Pensacola, Florida. And unfortunately, she wasn't just another player, she was something far more nefarious. The woman reached into the child's loneliness and began speaking to him as if she were a close friend and someone who deeply understood him. She took her time and earned his trust, and then she revealed her true intentions. She began instructing him to harm his family members. She told him to burn his younger sibling with scalding water and to violently throw him at the tile floor. If his parents found out, she commanded him to sneak into their room at night and to do away with them. She would go on to tell him to burn their house down with aerosol and matches. But when the youngster attempted the first of these vile instructions, deputies immediately arrived to the house. They found that some of the parents' sheets were covered in spray and questioned why he was hurting his younger sibling. Paralyzed in fear, the truth finally spilled out. The kid admitted that there was a woman online who was telling him that he had to do what he was doing. It was revealed that this vile witch used a children's game to puppeteer a child into attempted murder. Sykes was arrested and charged with multiple felonies. She was held without bond and now faces decades in prison. Thank God. There are countless stories like these on platforms like Roblox. If you're young, do not talk to strangers. And if you have younger siblings, monitor them and always check up on them personally to ensure that they're safe and happy. The Hammer. It was supposed to be just another night, until a game turned into a motive for murder. In Russia, a young man was told by his parents to stop staying up all day and playing computer games overnight. His mother took away his keyboard, hoping to enforce some discipline, but unfortunately, his obsession was darker than anyone realized. That night, while his father slept, the youngster crept into his bedroom with a sledgehammer. Yep, he literally showed up with a 20-pound sledgehammer. He carefully covered his father's head with a plastic bag to ensure no mess would be made. Then he lifted up the heavy tool and swung it down at his head. He struck him woefully with 6 brutal swings. And sadly, his father would never wake up. Even though it was his mother who took away his keyboard, he decided to attack his father instead because he was afraid that he'd wake up and stop him. After the vicious ambush, he demanded his keyboard back from his mother. He then went to his room, locked the door, and went straight to his computer setup, where he would engross himself in an endless binge of gaming for hours until police were called. Thankfully, he was arrested and formally charged for what he did to his father. Relatives described him as reclusive, spoiled, and completely lacking discipline. With his father gone, he had finally believed that he was the head of the family, but bludgeoning your father with a hammer so that you can play games doesn't make you into a man. Unfortunately, it sort of makes you the opposite. Video games exist as some of the best entertainment out there in the world. They're fun, immersive, and detailed. But safety is more important than fun and immersion. Don't speak to random strangers on the internet. Don't let your gaming become compulsive and uncontrollable. And definitely don't let games make you so mad to the point you start physically attacking people. Game right and game safe. With that being said, I can absolutely destroy any one of you in a Clash Royale match. That's your problem, not mine. Now have a happy day.
Here. Oof. That's rough.
Dance.
There you go. And all right. All right. All right. That's still needed. All right. Now let's take it over here. All right.
Dance, how you doing? Welcome back. Day 13 of the Need for Speed Marathon. Was it 14? 14. I think it's been pretty much a full year since the last time we played the 𝙂𝙚𝙣𝙚 mod. I'm not sure the controller is gonna work. Controller turns off while I boot the game. Wait, do we need to keep this Imperial or not anymore? I'm not sure. We will see. Alright, shall we chill with a round of cancer series first? Welcome to the 𝙂𝙚𝙣𝙚 Challenge series. So 100 events of pure cancer of submissions from the community, and what better way to kick things off than a race with the only car you will ever need. Let's unlock all things enabled. That was a mistake. Alright, don't change it during a cutscene. Do you guys remember this one? The Twitch golf? All the way back from 2017 when we got the sub button. What is going on with all the trucks in this game, man? Okay, so we're playing with the Unlimited mod today, which massively increases the traffic. And we also have the cops unlocked, so we're gonna see a lot of cops too.
I'm gonna need those
Gaming
keys
chair. I forgot about this.
I said right now!
We're playing with 100 opponents too. That messes up a few things. 100 opponents and I think 50 traffic cars is the current settings right now. My favorite cutscene.
Now get out of the car.
Why don't we make it
Somehow it fits her face, that voice, don't you think? Oh, we do have invisible cars as again. I'm not used to this traffic density yet. Because usually after you dodge a car, you're good, right? You're fine, but now every time I dodge a car, there's another car. All of my brothers in this race. fucking Clone Wars, man. It won the war, but now we have a million crews everywhere. Get some leftover money. But this monstrosity. Imagine how much slower it gets when you have like 8 adults sitting in that thing. Shit. The game, oh god. I'm not even fast enough to go up the hill. There's actually one way to get a multiplier to 170. Throw it off a cliff. White sports car. I mean, it does more than 150. That makes it nearly a sports car. I think that counts. We should have money for some upgrades. I mean, to be fair, the only thing we need is the engine. The engine might be the only thing we can get anyways. I don't know who came up with this one. That is so ugly. Right. It really seems like a bolt-on Wonder Boy. Now we're ready. Now we're ready to fly. So crew tactics. Never forget aerodynamics +5. That's so okay. I really hope it doesn't crash. Okay, it does crash. Do we think it's a limiter? Something to do with the amount of races? 15 opponents. What if I start the event from the safe house? Alright. Let's turn off the unlimiter and see if it fixes it. So it is the limiter. Let's get a fresh version of the unlimiter. I don't know, maybe I have an outdated version or a broken version somehow. You know what happened? They asked for a GT wing and I heard a GT3X wing, so I thought they want like triple size. My X-wing. That being said, we actually might get them a bounty. God, that's a lot of respawn. Look at all of the respawn kills. Because they will respawn in the kill zone of the pursuit breaker, especially when you're not directly looking at them. Even with aerodynamics +5, it feels so sluggish. Like you actually feel the weight of the car. Like how much time it takes to get this car moving. Oh yeah, you get everything. 6 markers. You're not missing out on anything. I quite like that because I think everyone is always like, I missed this, I missed that, I didn't get this. Alright, let's see what we got. The MPV. What brand is that even supposed to be? Mazda. Right, there's the Kunto. Cobalt Passat. Lada Samara. Could be fun. Could bring back the Lada Samara. We might want to bring back the Samara. I haven't used it in a while.
As much as I want to watch this, probably already got copyright anyways. I can't.
𝙂𝙚𝙣𝙚𝙧🖼.
Alright.
𝙂𝙚𝙣𝙧. If you're familiar with that name, you probably just puked in your mouth a little bit, even just hearing it. But maybe you don't know that name. Maybe you're familiar with the band that he was the lead singer of, Lost Prophets. They were a huge band back in the early 2000s. In fact, when I was a kid, they were one of my favorite bands. I even had a website I made in 4th grade called coldflames.pixo. I tell you, it could have been the next Facebook. I was ahead of my time. And all over that website, I had Lost Prophets music blasting because I really loved their work. And then in 2012, it was revealed to the world that 𝙂𝙚𝙣𝙧, for years, had gotten away with unimaginable evil and is one of the most infamous pedophiles in music industry history. He's like the Diddy of rock music, I suppose. It is unfathomable the shit that he did. I made a whole video on his history 3 years ago.
I don't know.
It is a lengthy and disgusting history here of unfathomable evil with Ian Watkins. He attempted to rape babies, like actual babies. It is beyond anything you're probably imagining. Like the worst things you can think of, he did. And he wasn't exactly like quiet about it either. He was very proud of all of it. The password to his laptop was even a reference to how he fucks kids. And then in a recorded phone call to a fan while he was in prison, he said that this whole thing was megalols. His sick, deranged fans would actually present their children for him. And he would talk to them in prison as well. Like, it's actually unhinged. The depths of depravity with Ian Watkins are something that you can't even picture as a sane person. And he got away with this for years. Again, this wasn't like the biggest secret in the world, like the fucking KFC 11 herbs and spices or anything. This was something he had been reported to the police for multiple times, but they didn't take it seriously. And in fact, the only reason he ever even got apprehended in the first place was on unrelated drug charges. Like, it's actually fucking infuriating, really. But he did finally get arrested. All of this information came to light, and he was serving a 29-year sentence, which, by the way, is crazy that it wasn't like multiple life sentences for all of this shit. I cannot believe it was only 29 years. I understand the laws are a little different over there when it comes to maximum sentences, but even still, the fact that he was going to be released in the next 16, 17 years means he would have been a free man again in his 60s. And for a fucking monster like this, I have no doubt he would have gone right back to raping children, babies, all of that evil he would have been engaging in immediately upon being released, no doubt. Now I say was because that's in the past now. He's dead. 2 fellow inmates stabbed Ian to death yesterday with a knife. It was first thing in the morning too, so this was like the number one thing on their to-do list for the day. They must have just got up, stretched, got the sleepies out of their eyes and said, all right, let's go kill that guy. So they did. Now, of course, I have no idea who these 2 guys are or what they're in for, but I do believe that the death of Ian Watkins here just saved a bunch of children in the future, because he was going to be released. He was going to be back out into society breathing the same air the rest of us do. And he point blank says that he found it to be mega lols and showed no remorse or any kind of like change or anything. So there's no doubt in my mind that when he would have been released, he would have went right back to doing this same shit, preying on children. So I do think now that he's dead in the dirt, going straight to hell, that children are safer for it, because he will not be released now out into the population to once again start preying on kids again. Also, this isn't the first time he was stabbed in prison, by the way. In 2023, he was involved in a hostage situation where he ended up getting stabbed, but he survived that one, and then they came back around and got his ass this time. I remember talking about this in 2023 when he first got stabbed. Like, what an interesting hostage to take, because I don't think anyone's going to be fighting that hard to get him back. I can already just, like, imagine all of the, officers or whatever on the scene, like, oh no, don't do that. No, please, don't stab him. No, oh no, the madness. No, stop it. Let him go. This is crazy. Don't stab him. And then when they do stab him, and he pulls through, I bet the officers are like, fuck! Kicking sand. What do you mean he made it? What do you mean he pulled through? Shit! This time, though, was clearly a bit different. They didn't use him as a hostage, they used him as a pincushion. So they stabbed and killed him, and you're not going to believe me when I say this, but it's true. He actually has people mourning his death. All the way up until his death, he had fans that were supporting him, saying he did nothing wrong, and counting down the days until he was freed. It's as fucked up as it sounds. From the handful of these lunatics I've seen, they're not even trying to proclaim that Ian Watkins is innocent, he's been framed or anything. They are actually just saying out loud that they don't care that he did all of those things. That it doesn't matter to them. They still can't wait for him to be freed.
Right.
Terrifying shit, really.
Right.
Anyway, though, I just wanted to share the good news with you about Ian Watkins being dead. And that's really about it. So, yeah.
Okay, I actually like this. His hair's now. Alright. Alright, let's see here.
Hello, guys and gals. Me, 𝙂𝙚𝙣𝙚𝙧𝙖𝙩𝙀. Do you ever just think the world is coming to an end or something?
Alright. 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 Oh, neck crack. Sorry, it's been taking a long time. Alright. And you. Oh, fuck me now. Hello? Alright, there we go.
Hello, guys and gals. Me, 𝙂𝙚𝙣𝙚𝙧𝙖𝙀. Do you ever just think the world is coming to an end or something? Maybe we're all just cooked as a species. You know, ladies and gentlemen, something that I hate about the world is how much we as human beings argue and not get along. I feel like we're all getting sort of conditioned into a place where we're just too busy fighting each other rather than seeing the actual forest, right? You know, rather than seeing the bigger picture and everything. Now, ladies and gentlemen, I made a lot of videos in the last 2-3 months about surveillance, about your privacy, about shit like ID verification. And the reason why I'm doing it is because, honestly, guys, the last 60-90 days have felt like I'm sitting in a fucking particle accelerator and things are accelerating at a pace that I could never have imagined, okay? You know, I want to say by the time GTA 6 launches, we're going to have the New World Order when it comes to the internet, okay? Everything's going to be tracked. Everything's going to be tagged. Everyone will know what you're doing. And the fucking wild part about it, too, is that we're not only getting tracked, we are paying some of the richest people in the world with our own money to screw us over down the road. So let me get started from the beginning here. Obviously, you might have probably woken up if you lived in Arizona. You might have noticed that, oh my God, the hub got banned. It's asking me for my ID. Oh no, actually the hub revoked their support from the actual site. They actually stopped serving states in the US that now ask for ID. So obviously, you know, you got people who are like, man, they keep ceasing operations in every state that requires verification, almost like their entire business model was built on intentionally getting kids addicted. Now, this is where, again, this topic is very touchy. 4 years ago, I made a video called Trafficking Hub. I highly recommend you go watch that if you really want to see how dirty the adult industry gets, okay? Look up companies like MindGeek, look up companies like 𝙂𝙚. They have some of the most disgusting lawsuits attributed. They have absolutely dropped the ball when it comes to protecting people, especially underage individuals, in my opinion, when it comes to stuff. But this is one of those situations where even as bad as they are, it's always throwing the baby out with the bathwater. You know, we've seen Discord recently get hacked, and Discord with user IDs, at least 70,000 according to Discord, maybe even more, obviously. Yeah, that's not a good sign. Imagine how scary it must be. Imagine how much effort these companies would take if they had to actually pay third parties to process your age verification, and those guys ended up getting hacked. Could you imagine the gooning epidemic that would occur? Could you imagine the amount of personal information that would leak there? These politicians that we elect have no fucking concept of what a VPN is, of what websites outside of the US or Canada or any of these countries do. Because guess what? The internet is a connected organization. If you ban a US website because you think they won't follow your rules, you're not going to easily so much ban a website that operates outside your jurisdiction, right? Meaning that people who consume really filthy stuff unfortunately always have access. Usually banning things always leads people into the darker side of stuff. I mean, you just got to look at history for it.
Yeah.
But ladies and gentlemen, I'm not here to talk about the gooning ban necessarily. It's not my interest. Something that I have kind of noticed is slowly but surely, my bills are going up. And you might be like, wait, why are the bills going up? It ain't fucking inflation, okay? I played enough Sonic Inflation to know what inflation does on the economy. What I've seen over here is a whole bunch of these AI companies like OpenAI, who runs ChatGPT, XAI, Google, whatever the fuck, Meta. A lot of these companies have not only invested billions of dollars into artificial intelligence, but they are now building data centers that are throwing the demand for AI through the roof. For instance, according to Rand, the actual key finding they had about the AI global data center power demand could actually reach 68 gigawatts by 2027, and then 327 gigawatts by 2030. And
Bruh.
obviously, that is much larger than the total global data center capacity of 88 gigawatts in 2022. Ladies and gentlemen, we are now requiring such a vast amount of power to run things like ChatGPT. You know, all those Sora videos you see where people just generate dog shit slop? Every time you generate a Sora video, you're basically burning through God knows how much resources to create AI generic slop all day, every day. Now, of course, I'm not here to yell about, oh, think of the environment, bucko. I mean, you probably should, considering the fact that you're going to be living on this earth, and there's a good chance you're not rich enough, in most cases, to fly off to fucking Mars or any other colony that the billionaires are building anytime soon. So you might as well make the rock you live on as pleasant as you can before you fucking croak, okay? And maybe you should think about it for the future, right? For your kids and all that stupid shit. But ladies and gentlemen, AI training, AI demands have gotten up so high that there are people living in communities that are now complaining about power. They're complaining about their bills going up. Now, you might be like, well, does the actual AI stuff really take that much power? You don't have to ask me about it. You can do a simple experiment. Download 𝙂𝙚𝙣𝙚, download LM Studio, download a local AI model. Provided you have a simple GPU in your system, you can actually use it to run local artificial intelligence models. Run them for a little bit and see just how much power your GPU consumes or your system consumes in general. Now, extrapolate that to an AI model that is magnitudes larger than what you're able to run on your local system, and just think, if it's not just you, but also hundreds of thousands, millions of people on a daily basis using that AI every single day to do genuinely mundane shit, like maybe make some stupid image, maybe generate a dumb video, or search for something on Google, because Google itself has become so ass that we now need AIs, even AIs from Google like Gemini, to browse the fucking internet, okay? Just a few days ago, I was looking at the Comet browser, which is an AI browser that browses the internet for you, burning God knows how many resources just to fuck up basic forms that you could have filled out in a matter of seconds. But it is what it is. So because these massive AI data centers are jacking up so much power to be needed, basically information has shown that, again, the cost of actual, electricity has increased, in some cases, 6.5%. For instance, depending on the state you live in, if you live in Maine, you'll see prices jump up 36.3%. Connecticut goes 18.4%, and Utah goes 15.2%. So here's the really wild shit about it too, man. Like, we're living in a world where I remember a couple of years ago, there was this big push. There's this mandate, where I live. Guys, we need to have an electric vehicle by 2035 or 2040 or some shit. Here's the funny thing about it. Where I live, there are people that are genuinely worried who work in the electrical infrastructure that are like, hold on a minute. If everyone in this town starts driving an electric vehicle, you're going to have to charge them at some point. Now, usually people who have EVs charge them overnight in their house if they have the apparatuses available. And the thing is, in my neighborhood, pretty much everyone has like an EV. So at night, when everyone plugs in and it has to charge, what is actually occurring is the power grid is getting fucked right up its goddamn ass. No lube, no nothing. But here's the funny thing about it too, right? So not only do you have the AI shit to match up for, the people who build these electric vehicles now spend an arm and a leg buying the fucking things to begin with. And the sole reason for these vehicles is that the per mile cost was going to be way cheaper than gas. But if that cost is going to go up, in some cases, almost 40% where you live, that's not a good sign. The average Andy gets screwed for what the billionaires are planning down the road. And what's funny about it too is that these guys are getting paid by us in government contracts in order to create and proliferate these things on a day-to-day basis. And this is why I'm so jaded too about like anything political related, because you could live in the most liberal country in the world, which is effectively my country, Canada, and it's like, you know, on one hand they'll tell you to give a shit about the environment and cut back as much as you can when it comes to polluting it, like on an individual level, but at the same time there's nothing that stops large companies, corporations, billionaires from like running their own little AI projects, opening up data centers in the country too, and then absolutely getting away with some of the most abhorrent destruction, some of the most carbon negativity that you could imagine. But you know, I have to be the one that has to drive the electric vehicle, eat the bugs in the future, while these guys get to absolutely destroy what. Just one day that these guys spend living doing this kind of shit and proliferating this nonsense is more than 10 years of me living doing what I usually do on a day-to-day basis. It's just insane that we live like this. So yeah, this is from like the chief of the Sturgeon Lake Cree Nation. Okay, so again, these guys already, nobody listens to the Aboriginals or
It's
the
just-
Indigenous in Canada for the most part, anyways. So like
The fact that AI companies are just fisting the power grid up the ass. It's fucking ridiculous. And guess what? It's not them that get punished. It's us. We're the common folk, the people. We're the ones who get punished for corporal's dumbass decisions. I don't fucking understand. And world governments guilt tripping us. That's our fault that the world's polluted. Fuck it, the governments for that. And the government's paying these corporations behind our back to do God knows what. I just pisses me off and a fucking half.
Like, this is probably the biggest highlight they're getting probably on my channel. I'm not even joking, like as sad as that actually sounds. They have to have their voices heard through a fat Indian gamer on the internet. That is actually shocking. But here they actually do bring up the fact that none of this stuff was ever brought to their attention. And again, this is just them trying to live on their own land. And they even say this proposed AI center will have massive effects on not only their water, but obviously the land itself. And then they bring up the fact that, yes, even the actual premier of Alberta is very friendly with the guys, the Trump administration, which, I don't really get into politics, but it's really interesting. Like, there's a good CoffeeZilla video, like he made it on his second channel a couple days ago, which kind of shows you how much the Trump family profits off of this kind of shit. They can probably sit there and brainwash some of the most insane cultists they have, but it is insane to see just how many people who are close to the administration enriching themselves because of it, to the point where it also starts infiltrating other countries like mine, which is Canada. She has provided a permit for me for thousands of acres. This is in regards to a O'Leary, 200 trillion cubic feet of natural gas. It's going to be a much low-cost energy in America, and it's a huge project. Again, we probably should be thinking of Canada first, but again, if they want to have sellouts in the country, then I guess be my guest. I got to raise 70 billion, but I'm moving all of the world doing with her, and I've been flying every sovereign wealth fund that will take the meeting, and we're off to the races. So again, they provide YouTube videos with exact quotations. So yeah, they've done their actual research over here. They've talked about it. They even raise a good question. Did the premier travel internationally with this O'Leary in support of this project? I mean, did you guys even talk about this with the federal government? I mean, in some normal countries, you would probably consider this to be an act of fucking treason, but not in the clown world we live in, okay? I'm sick and tired that I live in a world where I can't even escape, any of this shit with the media that I consume. All the South Park episodes I've seen, as good as they are very much tapped into how absurd modern day fucking life and politics really are. When I look at things like Grand Theft Auto 6, I'm going to be absolutely shocked how they satirize the current world, given that we are literally the parody world that all this media talked about right now in 2025. It's insanity. But not only has this AI shit gotten so heavy for some people, not only has it gotten so expensive and it's bleeding into people that would never even care about the stuff to begin with, what really have we gotten with this artificial intelligence that I really think is tangible? For most people, I think everyone has been sold a bill of goods that, people are always hyped. Like, it's something that Linus Torvald says. I think it's like AI is like 10% that he actually sees as feasible, and like 90% of it is like advertising, marketing fluff. For a lot of people that work in industries like the medicine industry, like there's a lot of good shit in the medical world where like I guess AI is used to help solve or cut down on a lot of the intricate labor involved with curing diseases. But that's very much an exception as opposed to all the generative shit that we're seeing, all of the needless use of AI in order to write a fucking email, or now be used to browse the web and be sold to individuals. Like the guy that made Perplexity's like Comet browser was literally telling people, if you use our browser, it can literally increase your productivity because everyone at your office will not be browsing the internet. The internet browser will be doing their shit for them. But it's hilarious because when you actually use this shit, like I did on my channel, it has a success rate of like 40%, meaning that you're actually wasting time and energy using the fucking thing when you could have just done it yourself. It literally is a prime example
Hey,
of
Space,
a
how are
problem.
you? Where is he? Alright, I'm trying to get... Ooh, okay. Not pattern. Damn, alright. Alright, how are you? Currently drawing.
Like a solution, trying desperately hard to look for a problem to solve. That's where it kind of is. But it wouldn't really just be that drives me insane. A lot of this AI stuff has sort of peeked its way into Google, YouTube, any of the social media stuff that we consume, to the point where even if you're like watching a video on YouTube, it's actually quite difficult to deal with like to not encounter the AI stuff. I mean, YouTube Shorts is coming at us with constant AI nonsense. I think at this point, most of the fucking ads that we're seeing on YouTube probably are just generative AI. And I've talked about this when the video stuff was getting really good. It's to a point where I feel like YouTube AI over moderates the comments to the point where I have to periodically go to my comment section on YouTube and just start approving stuff that YouTube's like, filter immediately throws into the shadow realm. Something incredibly innocuous. Like if you type in a swear word in the comment section, like there's a really good chance YouTube will automatically throw that into the shadow realm and I have to spend time trying to dig it out. I mean, not just on YouTube, but just even going into Google, like looking for something and immediately getting blasted with like the Google Gemini result just shows me how much energy we're wasting on things that probably don't need to be like, that probably don't serve a real practical purpose. The other thing that's really gotten me about this too is that, about in August, I was talking about a situation regarding Instagram bans, these false bans that have been happening, where literally tens of thousands of people were complaining about Meta banning Instagram and Facebook accounts because apparently their artificial intelligence was just flagging people, in some cases falsely, as being child predators. We're at a point where a lot of AIs are now existing to moderate human behavior on the internet, maybe even synthetic behavior with how much AI shit exists on these social media platforms. And the AI moderation is not like a human being. Sometimes the false positives trip, bans accounts, and labels them as actual,
That's what scares me
child sexual predators.
the
A couple
most.
days ago, I did talk about this, and I mentioned the fact that Google's AI is actually apparently picking apart accounts that are using their Nano Banana tool, which is like this ultimate Photoshop tool that they have, and accounts can randomly be banned with actually no appeal. So according to, again, the fellows over at Google, right, one person actually says, this is their story, they took a childhood photo merging tool where they took a photo of themselves as a kid and then themselves as an adult, and they asked it to hug their younger self, okay? It was a simple little request, and obviously the Google account then gets suspended for an alleged CSAM content violation despite using only personal appropriate images. Now again, the AI is not a human being. It just moderates automatically. And when you're getting yourself banned for something as serious as CSAM content violation, which is really something that I started seeing probably less than a year ago that these AIs were doing, that's not the future I think we should be in. In some cases, 2 years ago, Google Photos even came out and they were like, account was disabled for CSC misunderstanding. Close family member gave birth recently and I took photos of them and the newborn, which were uploaded to Google Photos so I could share with them and other family members. This ended up disabling my account with a message. Now here's the thing. All right, what's really wild about this is imagine if this is like an innocuous photo. Like, obviously I could imagine taking photos of the birth of your child. I don't think that's an unrealistic thing. There's people that record whole fucking home movies of that shit. Now, with phones that are automatically connected to Google in times for auto backup like most Android devices, imagine taking a photo, throwing your phone away and then it auto backs up and then you find out later, oh my God, I can't log into anything because Google automatically banned me for something so fucking serious. Now, obviously, this was 2 years ago. It might not.
Which is why I always turn off automatic backups. Because I don't want everything backed up. Let's say, what if I take a picture of some, I don't know, tax documents to send to email to a tax attorney. I don't want that backed up to Google Photos. You see why?
Not have been the artificial intelligence, but I can only imagine with the amount of false positives that are coming up, this is about to get even more intense. Another situation is this is what it actually looks like. Accounts are disabled. Looks like the account has content that involves a child being sexually abused or exploited. This is a severe violation and might be illegal. How about they say and might be illegal? That's just like a legal way for them to cover themselves, maybe. How is it that you can say that you have content that involves a child being abused and that might be illegal? Dog, it is illegal to have stuff like that. But the question we now have to ask is, how are you just proving such a heinous accusation? Because ultimately, this is a pretty heinous accusation to the fucking user. And there have been people that have had the law enforcement investigate them and ultimately had to clear them, only going through a pretty long legal situation, obviously involving something very serious, and especially when, your friends and family and like people around you pick up about what you're being investigated for, that leaves a seriously permanently sour note in anybody's mouth, because it's such an emotionally charged thing that AIs now are accusing fucking people of. But again, what really also baffles me in this situation too is this. So a lot of these big tech guys apparently recently have come out and started to maybe hint at the fact that all of this shit might have actually been bubbles, right? For instance, a quote from Sam Altman was the first to warn about these problems. When bubbles happen, people get excited about a small core of truth, which there is some small good nuggets to AI. The internet was real, technology was important, but the enthusiasm got out of hand. And I think that's pretty important. A lot of this AI stuff is a lot of spent resources for not a lot of stuff in actual tangible returns. But obviously, none of these guys are against artificial intelligence because ultimately it's allowed them to balloon their wealth to an astronomical degree. guys like Elon Musk, guys like Larry Ellison. Larry Ellison is the funniest example here because you're not misreading this. This guy is now worth $352 billion, making him the second richest man in the world. And what has Larry Ellison been fucking talking about in regards to AI? Well, listen to some of this shit.
Securing schools, we think we can absolutely lock down schools so that dramatically reduce the case of anyone being on campus that doesn't belong on campus, and immediately alert second, basically beat to death another citizen on campus. Well, that can't happen because it would be on TV at headquarters. Everyone would see it. Your body cams will be transmitting that. The police will be on their best behavior because we're constantly recording, watching and recording everything that's going on. Citizens will be on their best behavior because we're constantly recording and reporting everything that's going on. And it's unimpeachable. The cars have cameras on them. I think we have a squad car here someplace. Those kind of applications using AI, if we can use AI, and we're using AI to monitor the video. So if that altercation that occurred in Memphis, the chief of police would be immediately notified. It's not people that are looking at those cameras, it's AI that's looking at the cameras. No, you can't do this. It would be like a shooting. That's going to be immediately, that's going to be an event that's immediately, an alarm is going to go off. It's going to be.
So I wanted to include the extra bit of context because you just talk about the fact, and he kind of compares it to the fact that like body cams that are on like cops are always recording people and shit, and therefore there really can't be anything wrong that happens, right? I mean, obviously there is a lot wrong that can go on in policing, even if you have a fucking body cam. So again, his comparison is kind of cute, but then he also fits it with like AI, and he says words like, you know, citizens are going to be on their best fucking behavior. And I think that's a pretty big tell because ultimately for a lot of guys like Larry Ellison who've enriched themselves with artificial intelligence to the point where, again, they want to sell this product to governments. And it is being sold to governments, okay? There are surveillance apparatuses that have been made by these big AI companies that are actually encroaching on the daily privacy of you, simply so that you can remain on your best behavior and be constantly fucking surveilled. You know, a lot of people that talk about like how North Korea spies on its people, how China spies on its people, I always say spying has been pretty prevalent, but ever since this AI stuff has sort of come out, it really feels like the scale of it is about to go through the roof. Because ultimately, these guys don't ever have to hire people around the clock to watch you. They just have an omnipresent Big Brother Eagle Eye AI watching every single thing that you do. And again, to compare it a little bit to the Google AIs and the Meta AIs that have been falsely flagging people, how can you trust in artificial intelligence's judgment when it's already failing basic shit like that? Again, for a lot of these guys in this pit, people like Larry Ellison are just creating like every single possible avenue for them to pick up a government contract and sell people artificial intelligences. It's not too far away from the fact when literally a month ago I was talking about how, you know, Louis Rossman and again, people who live in Austin, Texas were protesting their city because apparently there were AI cameras placed all over downtown that were cataloging people's traffic so they could build a net of individuals and track where they go, all without warrants and all that crazy shit. Thankfully, in the city of Austin, because of their people protesting, they actually dropped those AI surveillance cameras, so a little bit of win to the people because they woke up and gave a little bit of a shit. But the fight is so far from over, and that's one of the reasons that I'm making this video. And I want you to remember, you know, services like Oracle, like literally 3 years ago, they were actually sued in this situation for being apparently a worldwide surveillance machine. Inside one of the lawsuits regarding this, you could even read that their data marketplace, because apparently at some point they were actually registered as a data broker. And for anybody that doesn't know what a data broker is, it's a company in the United States whose job it is to profile millions of people, grab every single bit of information on them, and sell them to individuals, you know, that are really interested in people. So data brokers profit from the location data of millions of people, posing serious risks to Americans everywhere, I would say any person, by selling their most private information. when abortion is illegal, researching reproductive health care online, updating a period tracking app, or bringing a phone to a doctor's office all could be used to track and prosecute
All right.
women. Which, that's just one example of it, right? Imagine if you were a protester or a dissenter. Imagine having easy access to your location data, who the fuck you're interacting with, what you're doing, and building a profile. And, maybe that ends up being the knock on your door, the reason, that you end up being in trouble one day for something that really isn't even a crime. So again, the data marketplace for them trades in personal data that Oracle itself collects via the 𝙂𝙚 tracking pixels, or personal data that private companies collect from their own users and sell directly to Oracle clients. Personal data that other third-party data brokers collect and sell to Oracle clients on the data marketplace. So it's just a whole bunch of creepy billionaires buying and selling your personal information and selling and profiteering off of that. And now when you add in artificial intelligence to the mix, well, the surveillance and tracking goes through the roof. Again, to go back to the world's real-time billionaires, it really feels like most of the people in the tech industry are sitting pretty happy running these AI companies and basically profiting off of the new surveillance machine that is starting to take hold of the world, really. It's to the point where companies like Palantir, for instance, right? Like, you can read this from the New York Times, where they say the administration, the current one, has expanded the work that Palantir does across the federal government in the recent months. The company has received more than $113 million in spending since the president took office, according to these public records. So just imagine, it's not a check that Trump writes to these companies for like $113 million. That's your tax money that gets taken from you at the end of each fucking financial year, quarter, whatever the fuck. And then that money is used by the government you keep fucking paying every year to then pay to these foreign companies or whatever to spy on you, okay? Like, it's fucking insane, the world we live in, right? Not only are we spending billions of dollars on this fucking shit, but that the billions of dollars that we do spend, a lot of it is used to just negatively keep impacting us. It's crazy to think that these AI companies have sort of come up. They're not only jacking up those electric prices for everybody, but they're also relying on the average person to pay what really these big AI companies should be paying for anyways. If they're the reason my fucking hydro bill keeps going up, then I'm fucking sorry. They should be the ones paying and not me at the end of the day. They're the reason that the usage is through the roof. And it's not just any of these billionaires too. It's kind of insane to think that obviously when it comes to, again, even Palantir, guys like Peter Thiel have been running these crazy private ticketed events where they've been talking about the end of the world and Armageddon and the Antichrist and everything. It's to the point where anybody reporting on this ends up getting blacklisted from these fucking events. But for anybody that doesn't know, in the last month, Thiel was basically running lectures all across San Francisco where he's talking about the Antichrist and the Armageddon is coming, and who Thiel is a smallo Orthodox Christian, believes the harbinger of the end of the world could already be in our midst, and that things such as international agencies, environmentalism, and guardrails on technologies could quicken its rise. I don't know if this is ketamine or just delusion, but it's just insane to me, looking at this and just reading from somebody who's using religion and aspects of a religion to try to subvert the fact that ultimately, if you really actually thought about the Antichrist or the end times, it would literally be these people that are using it to surveil on mass populations, attempt to control speech through, again, the surveillance, have people hidden in, and again, the amount of wealth these people accumulate off of the backs of the average person, while ultimately, in the long run, ruining the world for them, is fucking insane. And the thing is, people are so busy fighting each other that they don't even really look at these guys and see what they're doing. In a record amount of time, guys, 3 to 4 months, they have absolutely started the fucking shift and are turning the world we live in into a less private, less secure, and ultimately a world that these people want to control through their mega corporations, okay? It's just, I hate to be, I feel like sometimes I'm the only person looking at, the bigger picture, while everyone in the world just keeps fighting. And again, it's not even just the AI companies that they want to control or just mass surveillance. We're already looking at, again, world leaders just admitting to the fact that they are actually going behind, and buying up social media companies for propaganda purposes. And going back to guys like Larry Ellison, it was insane because literally, as TikTok was being sold off, Oracle, his company, ends up purchasing an 80% stake in TikTok in the United States. And again, what's really insane about it too, again, is, you've got the Israeli Prime Minister, Benjamin Netanyahu, going, yeah, by the way, if we're going to absolutely, rebuild our image, by the way, we need to absolutely use social media. Like he even admits in a quote right over here, social media is the most important weapon to secure our base in the United States of America. So obviously, look, I don't care what your views are on me. I'm sure your favorite political YouTubers probably said whatever shit they wanted to say about me, that I'm a genocide supporter or some shit like that. But since I have a platform, I might as well clarify things since I've already discussed this. And I have no issue discussing the genocide of a people, obviously. So the thing about it is, obviously, it's a holy war. It's a very complicated situation that has lasted longer than even Israel has existed as a country. But the thing about it is, while Israel exists, the leadership is absolutely using their military, and I'm not even going to call them a defensive force because that's just a very clean way of saying a military force. The Israeli military absolutely is barbaric against a group of people. They use their might and technological superiority to genocide and kill a whole bunch of people that are not even close to their weight class in terms of combat and technological capabilities. In a span of 2 years, the amount of wanton violence exhibited by the Israeli government is absolutely abhorrent. You've seen people that are not putting any effort into preventing the loss of civilian life. In fact, if anything, the Palestinians are treated like they're not even human in that case. There's no consideration, I feel, put into it. And the world is watching, the world is talking about it, and people like Benjamin Netanyahu are considered war criminals, I believe, at this point, and they should be tried for actual war crimes. Now, the thing about it is, looking into this situation, I have no issue, obviously, saying the Palestinians deserve assistance, and if you can donate money to them, please do so. It's something I even said on the H3 podcast probably months ago.
Details.
And, the time I was on there. And I had said that, during the month of Ramadan, watching a photograph of a Palestinian family eating on the broken remains, like a second floor of a building that had half of it defaced, these people obviously didn't care about dying. They were just enjoying whatever time they had before the missile would attack them. It was just one of the most heart-wrenching things to have seen. And the thing is, it's one of many images in the world. Now, obviously, the world is watching, and all we can really kind of do is protest and speak to our government leaders and say, do not assist the Israeli government, yada, yada, yada. And wherever that may lead, will lead. But the thing ultimately is, going back to the TikTok point, you have leaders like Benjamin Netanyahu blatantly admitting that, I'm sick and tired of people rightfully calling me a genocidal war freak. That said, can we purchase or maybe have stakes in these, platforms like TikTok where there is a lot of pro-Palestinian sentiment? And, through this, using their algorithms, they can start to censor and propagandize themselves and clean their image when there really isn't any reason to be cleaning their image. Like, this is such blatant dishonesty, and the fact that they're admitting this out in the open and people aren't questioning it to the degree that they really should is pretty fucking disheartening. And it's one of the reasons I'm making this video, because at some point you kind of do have to talk about these things in amongst the goofy shit. You've got insane amounts of AI that are just completely, blasting people out as pedophiles when they aren't in many cases. You've got these same artificial intelligences that are jacking up the prices through the roof and accelerating a pretty bad course when it comes to the environment we live in. And at the same time, a grand use of these tools is built to spy on us. And the most ironic part is, we're fucking paying for it, man. It's just, I don't know. At some point, I feel like these kind of videos are important because I get that it's depressing. I get that it's not what you want to hear. But, given that in Austin, Texas, like, they scrapped their AI camera program because people were out there protesting, because people did raise a stink, I think at some point it's worth, you know, using a video on my platform to at least raise some awareness to the really negative aspects of this. And this is stuff that you can look up and verify for yourself, okay? You don't just need to take my word for it, and that's all I'm gonna say. But ladies and gentlemen, you gotta wake up from the fucking like dog shit that we're living in and at least somewhat start addressing these problems before a year from now it's all going to become impossible to deal with. But ladies and gentlemen, this is me, 𝙂𝙚, and I wanted to just talk about this stuff. Tomorrow, we're definitely going to stick to more positivity. I've got some Linux controversies to discuss. I've got some 𝙂𝙚 box consoles that I'm making that I want to showcase on my channel. So all of it involves some Linux. All of it involves some Windows bashing. And, you know, we might have some interesting creepypasta lost images to discover too. So going back to regular programming, but yeah, I just wanted to talk about it because, man, I've been on this for like 90 days now, and I had a lot of stuff vented in me that I had to get out. Ladies and gentlemen, I am out.
Ooh. That was actually like a lot. I know the rough line art. All right. Somehow I want to where is okay, it's this one. We need to build rift. Um Alright. I need to use version real quick. I'm back, chat. Well, I think I'm very happy with the progress is made here. This yeah, I'm making it's a little bit shorter of an art stream than I thought I had creative flow, just wanted to get something from creative flow out, and yeah, I think yeah, well, right. Hold on, real quick, chat, while I move stuff around. All right, chat. I just want to say, thank you everyone for joining today's stream. My name is 𝙂𝙚𝙣𝙚. I'm a variety streamer. I stream lots of video game chat suggest me, as well as I draw art, I do programming, and hopefully sooner or later I'll be streaming 3D modeling to you all. I gotta find more time. I'm probably gonna have to switch up my schedule a little bit just to give myself more time to learn 3D modeling. I'll probably do that next time I have to make a schedule. And that being said, I can get going now with 𝙂𝙚𝙣𝙚𝙧𝙖𝙩. Bye bye, matinee.